Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome back to Blu-Roy Movies and into Blu-Roy Towers for the weekly watches. Got 9 titles to talk about this week. Been a busy week of movie watching. I've had a free diary at work and no football on TV, so we've got through a bit. So without further ado, let's crack on with it. Now I started last Sunday afternoon. The perfect time to watch this film. The 4K edition of Wizard of Oz. And once again, many thanks for Sam for sending this to me, and to Stuart as well, because Sam won it in Stuart's competition for 500 subscribers. Now, my first time viewing in 4K, and wow, absolutely incredible. I think the masterpiece word is bandied about all too much with films, but this is a masterpiece without doubt. And the 4K on it, stunning. The moment she crash lands on Oz and she opens the door and you're transported into Oz, and the colours of it just smack you in the face. I think this is what 4K was invented for. Films like this, just a new lease of life this brought to it. And you don't need to be saying much about the film. It's, like I say, it's a masterpiece. It's incredible. Everybody's seen it. The only thing that doesn't sit quite right with me is the treatment Judy Garland received while making the film. She was 16 when she made it, and she was constantly groped by the actors playing the Munchkins. She was quite a chubby teenager at the time, and she was forced to have a diet of cigarettes, chicken soup, and coffee. That was all she was allowed on set. And by the end of the filming, she was hooked on barbiturates, and rather springboarded her into a life of addiction and a woeful tale. So for that, it doesn't sit right with me, but it's a wonderful, wonderful film. But just a shame that if you dig into it, at the time there was a dark underbelly to Hollywood, and there probably is now. There's probably stuff we don't know about that will come out in further years. But as again, the 4K, by Jove. Did I just say by Jove? I knew I should have grown up in the 1930s. By Jove, the 4K is stunning. If you've got a good TV, a good 4K set, grab a copy of that, because it's absolutely incredible to see. Next up was a film that Larry had sent me. The 2019 reiteration of Shaft with Samuel L. Jackson. Now, I watched this a few days ago, and I'm struggling to recall much about it, so that's going to tell you a lot about it. Let me think. Now, Shaft, his son that he hasn't seen since he was a kid, gets in touch with Shaft because the son's friend has died of a so-called drug overdose, but there's more to it than meets the eye, and the son wants Shaft to investigate his death. So it becomes Shaft and Shaft Jr. and Shaft Senior when Richard Roundtree also appears on the scene. Very, very mundane, very paint by numbers sort of action film. Yeah, it's the Shaft universe goes, it's nowhere near the top of the pile. In fact, I've seen all 5 now, and I think I'd rank them the original Roundtree Shaft top. Then I did really like the 2000 film with Jackson in. I thought that was superb, so I'd put that second. Then Shaft 2, was that Shaft's Big Score? Then Shaft in Africa. Then this one, unfortunately, holding up the big pile of Shaftness. But yeah, I would not when I'd rush out to buy. If it's streaming, stream it by all means. But yeah, shame really, because I've really enjoyed the series. Not so I didn't get anything out of it. It's entertaining. But yeah. And next up, and a film I bought myself, believe it or not. The Sun Shines Bright. This is a John Ford film, and John Ford actually said that this was his favourite film that he directed. Whilst I wouldn't say that myself, I think there's many Ford films that are far superior to this. It was a decent time. This is all about Charles Winninger's character, Judge Billy Priest. Now, he's the judge in a southern American town. It's set like a few years after the Civil War, so the guys that fought in the Civil War, they're all quite elderly now. And it's about the town, how it's like coming together after the Civil War, after over all these years. There's still differences between the Yankees and the Feds, and he's back up for re-election as judge, but something happens with a black character in this, and there's a lynch mob and they want to lynch this character, but the judge doesn't see that it's an open and shut case, a bit like To Kill a Mockingbird, I suppose, and that is damaging the prospects of him being re-elected as the judge of this town. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a great film. It also had starred Stepin Fetchit in it. Now, he was a controversial character in Hollywood, and he still is to this day. He was the first black African-American sort of movie superstar, the first millionaire black star. And he always portrayed sort of like a black guy who's very dim-witted and drawled and slowly spoke and never spoke properly, tripped over his words. And whilst he is held up in some regard as being this guy who paved the way for other black actors, also he's pretty much put down for the stereotypicalness of the characters he portrayed. I mean, even Bill Cosby criticised him, and if you're getting a character assassination for Bill Cosby, you must be doing something wrong, for God's sake. But yeah, highly enjoyable film. It was an hour and a half and rattled along. I quite enjoyed it. Now, I didn't realise whilst watching it, this is actually a sequel to another Ford film called Judge Priest, which I've since managed to get my hands on a DVD copy, so I'll be watching that soon, and I'll let you know what I think about that. But once again, the Eureka Masters of Cinema collection absolutely hits the bullseye, because really good film. I really enjoyed it. Next up, and another one that Larry sent me, and another superb film directed by Mario Zimo, Laughter in Paradise. This is a 1950s film. It stars Alistair Sim, fantastic as ever, Faye Compton, George Middleton, and favourite of mine, if you know the channel, you'll know that, George Cole. This is all about these four people here. They have an elderly relative who's eccentric and known for playing practical jokes, and he dies. Then he writes into his will that he's going to give these four people £50,000 each, but on a proviso, is his last practical joke, is set them all a task. Now, the tasks were Alistair Sim, he's a very law-abiding citizen, won't do anything wrong, and he has a secret life that only him and his secretary know about. He writes these pulp mucky crime novels that were popular at the time. His task is he has to get arrested and spend 28 days in prison. Faye Compton, she's a woman of some wealth, but not considerable wealth, and she lives by herself with just her maid, and she's absolutely horrible to her maid, treats her like dirt, and her task is that she herself has to find a job as a maid and be in service for 28 days, and she has to stick it out and not get fired. Guy Middleton, he is penniless, but he portrays this sort of playboy image and one of the ladies. You could imagine like Leslie Phillips playing him. You could imagine that sort of thing, that playboy type figure, ding dong type he was. And his task was he had to marry the first woman he spoke to, or else he wouldn't get his money. And George Cole, who, once again, brilliant George Cole in this, he played a junior in a bank, and he's bullied by his boss. His boss is horrible to him, and his task was to go into the boss's office and hold up the bank with a toy gun, as he wouldn't get his money. Yeah, really good. The situations they got in, very hilarious, absolutely wonderful, classic British comedy. Recommend anybody go get that one because it's wonderful, wonderful film. And once again, Larry, thanks for sending me that way. I truly enjoyed that. Next up, and believe it or not, Larry also sent me this over to watch. The Old Man and the Sea, Spencer Tracy. This is all about Tracy's character. He's the most unluckiest fisherman going. He never has any luck. Totally down, out of luck. If he was in a marching band, he'd have a grand piano. That's how unlucky he is. And he hasn't caught anything for weeks and weeks, even though he keeps going out in his boat by himself, coming back empty-handed. And is struggling to eat, struggling to get by. But one day he goes out and he hooks a huge, huge fish that pulls him out to sea. And it's all about him trying to bring this fish back and trying to get back his credibility as a fisherman. It was okay. It's an hour and a half, but for the concept of it, there's a lot to stretch out for an hour and a half. And it had this voiceover monologue, which was pretty annoying. It was like listening to an audio book at times. It's okay. It's worth a watch. You don't have to think too hard about it. Switch your mind off for an hour and a half and watch it. Decent ending. Yeah, give it a go. And next up, I've been getting into me John Wayne films and Rooster Cogburn, which was a sequel to True Grit, as he reapprises the Rooster Cogburn character from that. This takes a lot of flack, but you know what? I quite enjoyed it. Cogburn, he's a marshal. He's often in trouble with the local judge and authorities because he likes to kill and ask questions later. He's that type of character. There's some guys, they've got a load of dynamite and they're transporting it so they can rob a bank. And whilst they're out about it transporting this dynamite, they kill Kathleen Turner's husband, and she sort of teams up with Rooster Cogburn to track them down and see that they get brought to justice. Now, the thing that elevated this for me was the chemistry between Wayne and Hepburn. Absolutely wonderful. They're forever bickering throughout the film. You know, Wayne's like is this big macho guy, and Hepburn figure keeps dragging him down a peg or two. It ran some quite funny scenes in it. Very much a character is like African Queens, similar sort of thing, and there's similar sort of scene where they're having to traverse some rapids as well. One I'm going to have to upgrade to Blu-ray because the DVD was terrible quality. It was so pixelated, it was only just about watchable. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and a worthy addition to my recent John Wayne watching. Absolutely good stuff. Next up, Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston, The Bodyguard. Now, I don't want to upset some people. I know he's got some fans, and I know James is one of his biggest fans, but I struggle with Kevin Costner. I don't know what it is about him. I just find him maybe a bit dull. Does anybody else have that? It's probably just me. I probably like just being an idiot, but there you go. I'll stick my hands to it. And I find his films as something a bit drawn out and dull, and this wasn't an exception. It's 2 hours, 10 minutes that could easily have been done in an hour and a half, as Costner is bodyguarding Whitney Houston's character, who's this singer who gets sent hate mail and by a crazed fan. And if they'd have kept to that storyline, I think I might have enjoyed it more, but halfway through it something happens and it's not this guy who's been sending her the crazed mail with threats in it. It's some other guy that turns up on the scene, and they telegraphed it like that. You knew straight away that was going to happen. One thing, wonderful soundtrack on it. Whitney Houston, she was such a talented woman, and such a shame how her life tragically ended like that, so short. But beautiful to listen to, but not one I'll be going back to anytime soon, I don't think so. Sorry, James, but Kevin, don't strike again for me. Next up, you might have seen I picked this up recently. Quatermass with John Mills, and I thought I'd give this a watch before I trade it in. It's actually gone up in trading since I got it. It was a £5 and now it's £7 trading. It was alright, yeah, it was pretty decent. It's about John Mills' character. He's a ex-scientist. Something's happened in the world. It's not fully explained, but it's sort of a post-apocalyptic type world they're living in now. There's different factions of people fighting each other. The old fogies are living underground. There's these planet people, they call them, and they're sort of like transfixed by the idea that if they go to places like Stonehenge, then they get beamed up into space. And Mills has lost his granddaughter, so he's searching for her. And it's all about this mystery about these people going to these monolithic areas around the world and how they're getting either beamed up, as they believe, or, quote, obliterated or something. It was entertaining. It was a decent watch. It was 4 sort of like 50-minute episodes. And some familiar faces, which I quite like. You watch these, you think, oh, I haven't seen her for years. There was Ethel out of EastEnders from all those years ago. No sign of a little Willie, though. Yeah, decent watch. It's all right if you're looking for some old-fashioned sci-fi. Nothing wrong with that one. And last up for the week, and maybe the film I enjoyed the most, actually, The Last Command. 1928 silent film. I know silence isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I enjoy it and I love this one. This is directed by Joseph von Sternberg, who did a lot of films with Marlene Dietrich that I like, and starring Janning. Oh, his name's gone out my head now. Can you believe that? Emil Janning, of course it is. I only watched it last night. Janning would also go on and do The Blue Angel with von Sternberg, which is another great film. I've only seen 2 of his films now, but he was a wonderful, wonderful actor. It's just a shame that he went on to be such a big Nazi, apparently. But there you go. This is all about Janning's character, who he turns up and he is a former general in the Russian army and cousin to the Tsar of Russia, and he's in America and down on his luck and looking for work as a film extra. And this is all about the story of how he got to that stage about being this big powerful man in Russia during the Russian Revolution, and how he's got to this stage of queuing up with thousands of other people trying to look for extra work in films. And it's a twisty tale, and I really enjoyed it. If you like your silent films and you haven't seen this one, I'd say it's probably a must. It was a 5-star film for me, absolutely fantastic. By all means, I think it's still in print, so if it piques your interest, pick it up and give it a watch. Absolutely awesome stuff. Pick of the week. So that's it for the week. I've been rabbiting on for quite a while. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you've liked what I've heard today, as I always say. Maybe think about subscribing if you want to hear more of this twaddle. Have a nice rest of your weekend. Don't work too hard, and you'll be good. Bye-bye.